Welcome to the SRJC Symphonic Band and String Quartet Concert, Bright Lights and Starry Nights. My name is Dr. Jerome Flegg. I'm the Director of Instrumental Music. I conduct the Symphonic Band, which you're going to hear. I also conduct the orchestra at SRJC, and tonight you're going to be hearing a pull-out group, the String Quartet. We hope you enjoy this new concert experience. It's a whole new artistic medium we have to work with these concerts. Let's make no mistake about it, this is not ever going to be able to replace an in-person concert, and we're very excited when we can resume those. But in the meantime, we have this very new, exciting artistic medium that is this. And an entirely new range and realm of things are possible through these concerts, and we look forward to seeing you on this journey as we develop artistically what we can do with these shows. You're going to get a lot of exciting things through this new format that we maybe couldn't even do in the past, which is very exciting. You're going to get to talk to musicians behind the scenes about the rehearsal process, about what the pieces were like to work on, and maybe even a couple silly things about the conductor. We'll see. This concert will stay up for 2 weeks. Share it with your friends and family, and exciting aspect is you can share it anywhere around the globe, and we encourage you to do so. So our theme tonight, Bright Light and Starry Nights, is going to weave throughout this evening's program in many, many different ways. From the start, we start with a military march, and you think of the American repertoire in classical music, and one of the bright lights, one of the high points, was the military march. Many people think of John Philip Sousa, one of the great march composers, and another one sort of in that same group of your top march composers is Henry Fillmore, the composer of this piece, the Alamo March. So you could think of this as sort of a bright light of the American repertoire. Throughout this evening, you're going to see lots of other pieces that are lights or are brilliant or were a shining sort of standout of the repertoire. You may also see pieces that sort of like the first of their kind in that kind of brightness. You may have other pieces like the Mozart Eine kleine Nacht music, which has a bright tempo. And that piece goes double because it also incorporates the night music part of the program, a little night music. So you're also going to have pieces that have themes of the night, things of the evening, even a piece coming from jazz, which of course was an art form that sort of evolved much of it in nightclubs, both in New Orleans and in New York, in the nighttime where you had these neat little jazz clubs as that art form developed. Please do follow us and like us on social media. You can always find us under SRJC, Instrumental Music. Say it with me. Okay, we won't make you do that. But you can find us always under the name on social media, SRJC, Instrumental Music. You can find us, of course, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. There is a live chat during this concert, so if you look in, there will be a chat feature, and both myself, the conductor, we'll use one of these things, but I won't do that in the chat. The conductor, I will be in the live chat, and we also have at least one SRJC student, a musician, to be in there, to be ready to kind of talk about questions, comments, things that you want to speak about during the concert. Without further ado, one of the bright lights of the American repertoire from the Military March form, here is Alamo March.
Like many of you, I enjoy watching and performing in live concerts. Unfortunately, we're not able to do a live concert, but the benefit of having a virtual concert is that this time I'm able to invite my friends and family that live far away and wouldn't be able to attend a concert in California. I hope you have lots of friends and family who are also able to watch and enjoy this wonderful music.
We have a couple very important thank yous for this concert. First of all, Mr. Grant Bramham, who did the video editing you see for all of the large band pieces, both the Alamo March and the Holst, where all the 30 or 40 musician boxes are there. That was Mr. Grant Bramham. I'd like to thank. We'd also like to thank Josh Monson, who edited the audio for the Mozart String Quartet coming up later in the program. We also want to make sure we thank Cindy Doherty, the Music Department Administrative Assistant, who does much behind the scenes work to make this all possible, and our Department Chair, Jody Beneke, for all of her wonderful leadership. We also want to thank our string coaches. So in our rehearsals, while I'm conducting the 30 to 40 people in symphonic band, often at the same simultaneously, we have a separate room of the string quartet. And the coaches we want to thank for that, Dr. Tammie Dyer, and we also want to thank Kyle Kraft as our amazing string coaches who are working simultaneously. A little bit about the editing process. So Jerome Flegg, put together the concert video as far as the other pieces you see that were not what I mentioned earlier. That was the editing that I did. But I thought you might be very interested to hear from Mr. Grant Bramham a little bit about how the editing process for these band videos, such as Alamo March, how do you do that, going about putting 30, 40 musicians together and making that work? Let's let Mr. Grant explain.
Yeah, so some of the process has been a lot easier than other parts of the process, obviously. Once you have that click track and you can send that out to the musicians, it's kind of just crossing your fingers and hoping that everyone can count to 4. But once you get all the submissions in and you figure out, okay, this one's out of tune or this one needs to be adjusted for timing, then the real work starts, which is taking each individual musician, matching it to the musicians around them, and then trying to get a good balance of, I want this performance to be genuine, but I also want it to sound good, and finding that balance of, obviously it's unique times and we're all recording remotely and playing together as an ensemble still. So how do we balance the technical difficulties of being remote and playing together, and also keeping it as real and human as possible? So it's, for me, one of the main challenges I'm facing is, obviously the editing is, tedious, and you can go in and you can edit everything for hours and hours to make it absolutely perfect. But also I don't want to do that because people make mistakes, and you still have deadlines to meet. So you have to try to make it as real as possible, and also make it reasonably presentable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
during this time, we've been able to really come out of our comfort zones and kind of work through a lot of our problems, whether they be internal, external, like within music, without. And we've been able to get in-depth critique going on through individual evaluation so that we could work on ourselves, which we wouldn't have that in a normal, like, in-person setting. And we could work on things that maybe we don't need to perform. We could go a little farther, and we could really go in depth on the little things that we don't really get to do in person.
Biggest thing I've gained through virtual rehearsals is being able to stay in time easier with the recordings. Before we had online band, I would always struggle with figuring out when to come in. But with doing virtual rehearsals, I feel like I'm able to stay in time easier and will be able to use this knowledge more in the future when we're able to play in person again.
If there's one thing I learned from this experience of virtual recording and virtual rehearsals, it's that it may be a bit challenging at first, but in the end result is totally worth it.
I'm Shrena Desai, and the experience of recording videos for the virtual concert will help me in the future because of the process behind it. It was really important to make sure that our cameras were correctly angled and that our mics picked up really good sound. This has helped me learn how to make professional videos, not only as a musician, but as a student as well.
This next piece links in with the night part of our Bright Lights and Starry Nights theme. So it's a piece that's from jazz. It's titled Don't Get Around Much Anymore by the great Duke Ellington, actually the most recorded jazz composer of all time. And so jazz links into the night theme in a couple ways. First of all, jazz became largely popular and developed much at night. For example, in the nightclubs in New Orleans, in the nightclubs in New York City. Jazz was music in many times of the night. Also, this piece has a double link because the lyrics even talk about this thing. So it's, of course, Don't Get Around Much Anymore. And the first lyrics we hear, missed the Saturday dance, heard they crowded the floor, couldn't bear it without you, don't get around much anymore. I'll stop singing. Very welcome for that. No more singing from me, but you can hear the lyrics, of course, talking about this dance at night. And it's this whole thing at a jazz club that the lyrics go on to talk about this story. And we hope you enjoy this chamber arrangement of Don't Get Around Much Anymore. next piece by Mozart we're going to play in the form of a string quartet, but this piece was actually played by different size string ensembles, and it's entitled Eine kleine Nachtmusik. Translates to a little night music. So again, linking into the night theme. Some interesting sort of background into this piece. So Mozart, of course, spent much of his life in Austria and including Vienna. And Vienna was famous for its nighttime concerts. And so this was in 1793 that someone wrote this as a concert goer. They wrote this reaction, this is actually 2 years after Mozart passed away, and they said this about the night concerts that you would hear in Vienna. During the summer months, if the weather is fine, one comes across serenades performed in the streets almost daily and at all hours, sometimes around 1 o'clock or even later. It is just these nocturnal concerts that show very clearly the universality and greatness of the love of music, since no matter how late they take place, at hours when usually everyone is hurrying home, one nevertheless soon discovers people at their open windows, and within a few minutes the musicians are surrounded by an applauding crowd of listeners who rarely depart until the serenade has come to an end. And then troops of them often accompany the musicians to yet other neighborhoods of the city. Before we begin, we'll let our musician Ethan, a violinist, tell you a little bit more about the process getting this piece ready.
Hi everybody, I'm part of the string quartet, and every week we worked with professional string coaches, and one of the things that they did was they helped me to understand the style of the Mozart piece that I was playing. And with their coaching, I understood it way better than I would have just playing the piece off of the sheet music. And I hope I captured that in my performance. Hope you enjoy.
If you enjoy our content tonight, please consider supporting the SRJC Band and Orchestra by following the link on screen. Your contributions help us make free, publicly available content like this. Funds are used for things such as sheet music, coaches and tutors, online subscriptions for distance learning, and financial support for students to make sure everyone has an equal opportunity to participate. Thank you so much for your support.
Hello, my name is Grant Bramham. I'm a percussionist here at the SRJC, and I'm also the video editor for this concert. The percussion section was asked to submit some form of an ensemble piece, so we decided to do one of our favorite warm-ups, which is most popularized by a group in Concord, California called the Blue Devils. It's titled Triplet Diddle. There's a ton of variations of it that have been distributed throughout the U.S. over the years, but this is the original version that we believe was published by the Blue Devils, at least, many years ago, and it's something that's very easy to do to a metronome and easy to record remotely, so that's why we chose this piece. It's a lot of fun, too. It's an exercise and a warm-up that we use, but it's also just a ton of fun to play. So without further ado, here is Triplet Diddle.
Wow, that was cool. Can we rewind and hear that again?
The part I like about the virtual practice on Zoom is no one can hear all the mistakes I'm making when we're playing in our virtual class. Of course, the downside is we're not in band class, so I can't hear all the mistakes that everybody else are making, but listening to them improve week by week until we finally got the piece the way we want it.
We'd also like to add that musicians regularly get individual feedback, and we do that through a program called Smart Music, where the musicians on a regular basis record just their part, submit it through Smart Music, and then I give them both a critique, written comments, and ratings as far as what to work on and how to better improve their part. Another way in this new format of how the musicians get individual help from the conductor is that when we break off sometimes in rehearsals into chamber groups, the smaller groups, I actually go from room to room in the breakout rooms, and I'll hear individual musicians in, say, a trio. I'll hear maybe player one play their part, gives feedback, then player two play their part, give feedback. So we found creative, new, and innovative ways to get musicians that individual feedback that can kind of fuel their improvement as a musician.
In my opinion, one of the most important aspects of any of the pieces that we worked on in class was getting Jerome to unmute himself after we ran through a piece.
Out, even all the way. 3, 4, even 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. In for 12. Even. This next piece, the Holst First Suite, is one of the great pieces of all time for the symphonic band or concert band. You could call it a bright light because it's actually one of the earliest really famous classical pieces for a symphonic band. And it was premiered in 1920, written a bit earlier. And so this performance tonight you hear is on the 100th anniversary as far as year of this piece. So it's 100 years old this year, going from the premiere. A couple interesting things about the inspiration of this piece. It was such a monumental work that from the time that it was premiered, 1920, going forward, it inspired many other great composers to write pieces for the symphonic band. Previously, maybe they would only write for an orchestra or a piano, but this piece inspired them, this bright light of the repertoire. Wow, you can do that with a symphonic band, was what they may have thought, and it inspired them to go on and write many other masterworks from different composers for the symphonic band. You'll be hearing movement 1 and movement 3, and we hope you enjoy these two. We'll be leaving out this evening the second movement, but you'll probably hear that on our upcoming concert in December. Let's get a little bit more insight into what the process was like for this piece.
An important aspect of the Holst movement 1 is that even though the tempo is fairly regular throughout, there are points where it slows and then speeds up again. That can be fairly difficult when you're all sitting in the same band room at the same time, all watching the conductor. But it's especially difficult when you're trying to do something like this virtually. I think we did a good job, and I congratulate Jerome for keeping us all together in these difficult times.
Bright Lights and Starry Nights. I thought that the third movement of the Holst greatly embodied bright lights just because it's so blatant and big and bombastic, and it almost kind of reminds me of a car with the headlights on coming right at you, but like it's still like really positive. I love it a lot, but that's the feel I get.
The first movement of the Holst Suite in E flat for military band, the Chaconne, reminds me of Starry Nights because the melody is so dreamlike. Hope you enjoy it.
We want to thank you again for spending this evening with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. If you would like to support the SRJC Band and Orchestra program, there's a link in the description to do so. In future concerts, you can expect 1 week before the concert that there will be a link to the YouTube premiere, and you can expect to see these online concerts through YouTube premiere going all the way through May of this academic year. You can get those links for those concerts at this website, music.santarosa.edu. You also could follow us and like us on social media, and we're always under SRJC Instrumental Music. We do have an upcoming concert on Friday, December 11th, 7:30 p.m. We hope to see you there. It's entitled Music Across the Distance, and it's very exciting because it's the groups you see here plus the choir program and other singing features within the program. It's going to be a lot of fun, of course, with choir director and vocal director Jody Beneke. We hope to see you there on December 11th. A couple other concerts to put on your radar, and you can always see these at music.santarosa.edu. November 13th, there's an applied music recital, great solo feature performers throughout. And December 10th, there is a diction and repertoire class recital that's going to be a lot of fun. Please spread the word to your friends and family. This concert link will be up for 2 weeks. We hope to get as many people as possible to see it. And we couldn't leave you this evening without, of course, saying thank you to you all and giving you, from all of our musicians, a big goodbye, and we'll see you next time.